yourself a comfortable seated position. So you might feel comfortable to sit cross-legged, or you might prefer to sit with your feet together and your knees apart. Those kind of positions need to be avoided if you've got any achiness deep down in your pelvis or in your lower back, or if you've been diagnosed with PGP or pelvic girdle pain or SPD. So you can have your legs out in front, or you can kneel, but I would recommend if you're kneeling that you perhaps get a cushion or something in between your feet so that you can just lift your bottom up a little bit and it doesn't put so much pressure on your ankles and your knees. Also, no kneeling if you've got varicose veins down the backs of your legs. Okay, so I'm going to sit cross-legged. We're going to bring one hand onto the center of your chest, one hand onto your baby bump. And you can close your eyes if you're comfortable to, but you don't have to. And just starting to become aware of your breath coming in and going out. And as you become more aware of your breath, you might just naturally notice that your breath is quite light and quite shallow, particularly the bigger your baby is, the more compression you get in your diaphragm and your lungs, so there's going to be less space to breathe fully and deeply. So as you just focus on your breath, you might find that you just naturally lengthen and deepen the breath a little bit. And a good kind of easy way to do that is just to take your exhale a couple of seconds longer than you normally would. So keep going with that exhale just for a couple of seconds more. And then the inhale is going to come nice and deep. And taking a moment to take your awareness down into your womb towards this new baby. And just notice whether they are awake or asleep, whether they're moving around and wriggling around, or whether they're being quite still and just chilling out. And then from there, you can keep your eyes closed and we're going to bring the palms of the hands together, or you can open your eyes if that feels. If you want to take a little peek, you can do. You can inhale, reaching the hands up over the head, and as you exhale, a big wide circle down with the hands. And then bringing the palms together again, same again. So inhaling, pushing the palms together very gently as you lift the arms up, and as you exhale, taking a big wide circle. And again, we'll do that one more time. So we're going to inhale through the nose. And you can exhale through your nose, or you can exhale through your mouth if that feels like a greater release, which often it does. And then we're going to bring the palms of the hands back together again. So this time we're going to reach the arms all the way up. Once you're up there, we'll interlink the fingers and turn the hands over so the palms of the hands are facing up towards the ceiling. We're going to rock a little bit from side to side here. So rocking a bit from side to side. And then coming back up to center. And we'll take the arms down again. So again, we're just going to roll, not again, rather, we'll roll the shoulders back and down a couple of times. And you can bring your hands onto your knees. So you can keep your legs as you are. If you want to have a bit of a stretch out or just change the position of your legs, do feel free to change the position of your legs. You can always bend your knees and have your feet flat on the floor if that's more comfortable for you. And we're just going to roll the head around, but avoiding that kind of crunchy feeling over the back of the neck. So this is like you're drawing a circle with your nose directly in front of you. And this circle that you're drawing with your nose can be a big circle. It can be a small circle. It can be a medium-sized circle. You can do 3 big, 3 small, 3 medium, or however you feel you want to work with your neck. I think there's real value in the small stuff. So sometimes those small movements can be really, really, really beneficial. And at some point when you feel ready to, we'll change the direction of those circles and go back the other way. And then we're going to come back to center. So from there, you can reach your arms out in front of you, turn the palms of the hands up and touch your fingertips to your shoulders. So we're going to take an inhale as we lift the elbows up and an exhale as we go down and around. And again, let's exhale through the mouth this time. So inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the mouth. Again, if you need to change the position of your legs at any time, do so. And then we'll change the direction of those circles and take them back the other way. So again, inhale as the elbows lift up, exhale through the mouth as they come forwards and down. That's it, great. And then one last circle, coming all the way down. So if you're not there already, you can now stretch your legs out in front of you. So we're looking towards the toes. So somebody mentioned having swollen feet and ankles, particularly at the end of the day. So this is really useful for that kind of edema and swelling that you get in your feet. So we're going to start. You can lean back on your hands here if you're comfortable to do so. Or if it's not quite comfortable, you want to bend your knees a little bit, you can do. Or you can do it sitting up on a block or even in a chair if you need to. So we're going to inhale and open the toes as wide as they would go. So you've got a little bit of space between all of the toes. And then as you exhale, closing the toes, scrunching them up. Inhaling, opening the toes really wide. And exhaling, scrunching the toes up. Maybe if I go that way, you can see my feet in the light. Although you can't see. Anyway, so opening the toes on the inhale. And closing the toes, scrunching the toes up. Oh look, I've got a shadow exactly where my bump should be. Where was that? That was funny. Okay, so anyway, this time with the toes open, keeping the toes kind of open, spreading, active, we're turning the soles of the feet in towards each other. So what you want to avoid is the toes kind of rolling in towards each other. You want to keep the toes active and moving slightly away from each other as the soles of the feet turn in. And then we're going to turn the soles of the feet out in the other direction, so away from each other. And then in towards, and out and away. And in towards. So this kind of turning of the feet, not only is it engaging the arches of the feet a little bit, but it's all these kind of subtle movements that's just going to allow the blood to flow and those liquids, those fluids, that edema to kind of make its way hopefully back up to where it should be. And then coming back to center. So this time we're going to push the heels away. So you might find your heels lift just a little bit off of the floor and then pull the heels in and keep your toes quite relaxed. You don't have to point the toes. And then pushing the heels away so the heels lift off a little bit and then pulling the heels in. That's it. And then lastly, just resting the heels down and we'll take the feet around in circles. And then changing the direction, and you're taking those circles back the other way. That's it. Okay, so from here, let's take the hands off from behind you. Just make us a loose fist with the thumbs on the outside and take the wrists around in circles. So you can sit with your knees bent, with your feet together, kind of half and half, or however you want to be, or with your legs out in front. Just giving the wrists a bit of movement. There we go, the same time, my wrists, and then at some point changing the direction of those circles and circling back the other way. That's it, and then coming back to center, just giving the hands a gentle shake out. And we're just going to stay with the wrists for a moment, and then we really will kind of get everything else moving. But from here, we're looking to, as if you're resting your forearms on a tabletop. So you've got level from your elbow and your wrists and your hands. What you don't want is your hands kind of hanging down or pointing up. So you've got a level, even, flat arm from the elbow. So you don't have to have your arms like flat from the shoulder, but from the elbow coming forwards. And then from here, just like we did with the feet, we're going to turn the hands in the fingertips in towards each other, but try not to let the elbows go out to the side. So the elbows stay where they are as the fingertips come in towards, and the elbows stay where they are as the fingertips move away from each other. So it's all in the wrists, the fingertips coming towards, and the fingertips moving away. And that's it. And again, coming back to center and just giving the hands a bit of a shake. Okay, so if we're all free of any pain in the pelvis, any sharp pain in the pelvis, SPD or PGP in the hips or the lower back, then we're going to bring the soles of the feet together and take the knees out to the side. You don't have to pull your heels in towards you. In fact, anything, take your bottom back a little bit so you've got a nice loose diamond shape in front of you. So with your hands on your knees here, we're going to circle around. So circling around and just feeling into your lower back, your mid back, the back of the ribs, the back of the diaphragm, the hips. Just getting everything moving a little bit. And then at some point, when you feel you want to change the direction, we'll change the direction and go back the other way. And then from there, when you feel ready to, and again, if this feels really nice and you just want to keep on going for a little bit longer, if this is really doing it for you, then just absolutely keep on going. But if you're ready to move on, we're going to come back to center. We'll bring the knees up, so the feet are going to come flat on the floor. You want your feet wide enough and your knees and your thighs wide enough that your bum can fit through the middle. So you don't want to kind of be squishing your bum at all or having any sort of compression there. So the feet are nice and wide apart. You can have your hands on your knees, and as you inhale here, we're looking up towards the ceiling like a back bend almost in the upper back. And then as you exhale, we're going to roll back onto the tailbone, dropping back into the spine, chin towards the chest. And then coming forwards and lifting up. And rolling back. So you want to feel that there's this definite kind of rolling in the pelvis. So the pelvis is going back a little bit and sort of back and pointing upwards. And then as you come forwards, you're sitting right up. The pelvis is kind of pointing down and forwards. So definitely getting that movement in the pelvis and the hips. And then coming back up so that you're sitting up nice and tall. Again, if this is feeling really nice and you feel like it's unlocking something, sometimes in the upper back it really goes really nicely, or in the hips. If you just want to keep on doing this for a little bit longer, you're very welcome to do that. If you're ready to move on, we're going to move into an all fours position. So any which way, just taking the feet to one side and coming into your all fours position. So now if your wrists are feeling a little bit sensitive and they're not really up for having pressure on them in this acute angle, there's a couple of things you can do. The first thing is to make a fist and have your knuckles on the floor. So rather than having the hand flat on the floor, you've got your knuckle to the floor. So you haven't got an angle on your wrist, so you've got a nice straight line. If that is still not really working out for you, the other option is to come down into your elbows and your forearms. So from here, we're going to imagine that you've got a pencil in your belly button and we're drawing a circle on the center of the mat. So circling around. And again, that circle can be as big or as small as is appropriate for your hips, your knees, your wrists and your shoulders. And if you find here that your knees are feeling a bit sensitive and you need a bit of extra padding underneath your knees, a folded blanket or a cushion or something like that, you can just pop something underneath your knees to give them a bit of extra padding. And again, you can always change the position of your arms, your wrists. If you feel that your wrists are getting a bit tired and they need to change a position, you just change your position. And then we'll change the direction of these circles and start going back the other way. So also, if you're down on your wrists and your elbows, that's a really nice position if your baby's in breech. So if your baby's the wrong way around, this is a good position to try and get them back the other way. But you've got to make sure they're awake. There's no point doing all those lovely spinning baby kind of movements if your baby's fast asleep. They're not going anywhere. So from here, we're going to make our way back to a kind of central, neutral position. We'll bring the knees just a little bit closer together. They don't need to be touching, but a little bit closer. And we'll take the right leg back with the toes on the floor and extending back into that right heel. So extending back into that heel. And then we're going to lift that right leg off of the floor. So as you lift that leg off of the floor, looking down towards your thumb, so keep that neutral line in the neck. So you're still looking down towards the thumbs. Again, you can always come down onto your forearms and your elbows if it's not comfortable on your wrists. And from here, we're going to bend that knee, bring the heel towards the buttock, and take that right knee around in circles. Big circles, small circles, medium-sized circles. The size of the circle is completely up to you. We'll change the direction and go back the other way. And then from there, we're going to step this right foot forwards now to the outside of the right hand. So you can step it forwards, you can take it out really wide, wiggle it forwards, you can step it kind of halfway and then pick it up. and drag it through. And once you're there, you can come up onto your fingertips or onto your wrists, your fists rather, just to give the wrists a bit of a break. And we're going to start to rock forwards and backwards. So as you rock forwards and backwards, again, how far you go is completely up to you. So rocking forwards and backwards. And again, this is a really good movement to get your baby down into a good position. And then at some point we're going to find a kind of medium place. So you want your knee over your heel here. So the knee's over the heel. We're going to bring the right forearm up onto that right thigh, and the left arm is going to go in backwards moving circles. So you want to inhale as you reach that arm up, and then exhale as it comes down and around. So moving with the breath has a couple of things that it does. The first thing is it slows your movement down, or you might find that it slows your breath down. Hopefully, it doesn't speed your breath up. And it also optimizes that stretch by inflating the lungs. So you inflate lungs as you've got that stretch going on and the arms reaching up, and then the lung deflates as you come down and around. Okay, so this next circle, we're going to come all the way up. So reaching the arms up now. You can interlink your fingers here and point the index fingers up towards the ceiling. So pointing up towards the ceiling, taking the thumbs back a little bit. And then from there, you can release your hands. We're going to take the hands behind you now, interlinking your fingers behind you, drawing the knuckles down towards the floor. So the knuckles going down towards the floor. And then you can release your hands. We'll bring the hands back down onto the floor. I'm going to step this right leg back where it came from. So again, we're going to take the left leg now back, toes on the floor, extending back into the heel. Remembering you've got options for your wrist. You can be on your fists and your knuckles, or you can be forwards on your forearms and your elbows. So extending back into that heel. And then we're going to lift that left leg up. So keeping the toes pointing down towards the floor, looking down towards your thumbs, left leg lifted behind you. And from there we'll bend the knee, bringing the heel towards the buttock and taking that leg around in circles. So the knee circles around. And we'll do about 3 in each direction. So at some point changing the direction and taking those circles back the other way. And then from there, stepping that left foot forwards to the outside of the left hand. And again, either coming up onto the fingertips, if you're not there already, or onto the fists to give the wrists a bit of a break and starting to move forwards and backwards here. That was my knee popping twice. It's quite a good one. So how far you go with this movement is completely up to you, making sure that your bump has got plenty of space. And keeping very firmly within your own comfortable limits. So without doing anything that causes you any sort of discomfort. From here, we're going to find that midpoint where your knees over your heel, bringing the left forearm up onto that thigh. So the right arm now is going to go backwards, moving circles. And again, it's an inhale as that arm lifts up and then exhaling down and round. Good. So again, from here, we're going to reach both the arms up. So both the arms reaching up, interlink the fingers, but point the index fingers up towards the ceiling. So lifting everything up here, trying to make as much space between your lower rib and your hip as possible. So plenty of space for baby. Boobs lifted way off your bump. And then we'll take the hands behind you, interlinking your fingers behind you and drawing those knuckles down towards the floor. That's it. And then releasing your hands there. We'll bring the hands back down onto the mat and we'll step that left leg back to where it came from. Okay, so radically, we're going to stand up now, but we're going to do it really slowly. So we'll tuck the toes under, and with the toes tucked under, we're going to come up through a very brief downward facing dog. So starting to lift your knees off the floor, lifting the hips up and back. And then from there, you can start to walk your feet forwards and your hands towards your feet, keeping your feet nice and wide apart. So again, there's plenty of space for your bump between your thighs. You don't want to feel any compression in the sides of your bump. So keeping the knees soft and the feet really wide apart. We're going to bend the knees, bring your hands onto your knees, and then look forwards. So as you lift your head and you look forward, you make sure that the world isn't spinning. So if you have issues with your blood pressure or your iron levels, just keeping a little bit of an eye on that. If you need to stay there for a little bit longer, take a few more deep breaths, you can do. Otherwise, we're going to push into the feet and come all the way up to stand. So once you're up, I'm just going to teach you a little bit of a moving mudra, which is really, get my pockets in there, which is really useful, I think, not only in pregnancy, but also for the aftermath and ongoing kind of throughout life as a woman, I suppose. So this is a yoni mudra, and I've got my thumbs touching and my index fingers touching, and it's going over my womb there. So my hands, the palms of my hands are kind of resting about where my ovaries are. So obviously it depends on the size of your bump. If you've got a really big bump, then they're going to be nowhere near your ovaries, but otherwise they might be a little bit closer. So this is our kind of yoni mudra. We're going to bring the palms of the hands up now into a namaste position, so the palms of the hands together. So while you're doing this, I do recommend that you move a little bit, because standing still when you're pregnant is just not really the thing to do. So we're just going to get a little bit of a rock, a little bit of a sway. And then we're going to move from this palms together mudra, from our Anjali mudra, turning the hands down, thumbs together, index fingers together, and taking that yoni mudra down over your bump, and then back up again, palms together. So a mudra is like a gesture. So it's an energetic gesture linking your heart in the center of the chest here to your womb and whoever might be inhabiting your womb. So it's like sending down, recognizing this river of love and energy which exists between your heart and your womb. Sending down a little bit of love, a little bit of gratitude, because the womb, she gets a lot of complaints. She doesn't often get a lot of thanks for propagating the human race. And so this time, we're going to make this yoni mudra a little bit bigger. So we're going to bend the knees, and we're going to take it down towards the floor, and then push into the feet, come all the way up. And then taking a big wide circle with the hands. So we'll do that one again. So palms of the hands together to start with. You can rock forwards and backwards. You can sway from side to side. Let's just make sure the toes are turned slightly out to the side. So as you bend your knees and you come forwards, your knees are going out to the side. So turning over into our yoni mudra. So thumbs together, index fingers together, over your womb, over your baby, down towards the earth, and then pushing all the way up. And arms down a big wide circle. We're going to do that one last time. So palms together, rocking a little bit from side to side, finding this yoni mudra. Taking that yoni mudra down over your baby bump, over your womb, all the way down to the earth. Bend the knees. Push into the feet to come all the way up. And then a big wide circle. Perfect. So once you're there, we're just going to sway a little bit from side to side. So you can keep your feet quite wide. Keep your knees a little bit bent. Just having a little gentle twist. Gentle twist. And then coming back to center again. So if you take your right hand behind you, so with your elbow bent and your right hand behind you, and the left hand is going to go onto your right shoulder. So this is a little bit more of a twist. So we're going to lift this left elbow up and look over that right shoulder. So it's a little lift in the elbow and a little twist to look over that right shoulder. And then looking forwards, bringing that elbow back down. We'll swap over to the other side. So we'll take the left hand behind with your elbow bent, your right hand onto your left shoulder, that's the one. And again, so lifting the right elbow up and looking back over your left shoulder. And then looking forwards. We'll go over to the other side again. So we'll take the right hand behind you with the elbow bent, the left hand onto that right shoulder, lift the elbow, lifting that front elbow up, looking back over your right shoulder. And then looking forwards, releasing that elbow down. We'll go over to the other side again. So left hand behind, right hand to the left shoulder, lift that elbow up and looking back over the left shoulder. And then looking forwards again, releasing that elbow down. We'll bring the arms down by your side. So we're going to come back down to the mat now. So we're going to come down in the same way that we came up. So standing with your feet nice and wide on your mat and bending your knees, bringing your hands onto your knees. So starting with your hands on your knees, and we're going to reach forwards, as far forwards as you can go. And if that's too much, you can always bring one hand forwards and then bring one knee to the floor. Otherwise, we're going to see if you can bring both the knees down together at more or less the same time to come back to our all fours position. Perfect. Okay, so coming into a seated position now. So you can take your feet to one side, being very careful with the knees, and bringing the legs out in front. So we're going to do a little bit of breathing for about 5 minutes. So you want to find yourself a really comfortable position. So you might be comfortable just sitting on the floor with your legs crossed. That's perfect. You might prefer to get really comfortable. So what I suggest at home is you get a couple of cushions off of the sofa or some chair cushions, like the seat cushions, the big ones, and you put them behind you. So what have I got here? So if you imagine that these are massive cushions off of your sofa, you want to have your 2 cushions on top of each other. And if you've got a rolled blanket or something like that to go underneath your head, that would be perfect. I'm just going to lay that on top. So ideally, you want something where you've got something touching your lower back and you can lean back over it. And you want something underneath your head, supporting the back of the neck as well. So ideally you want to be at about 45-degree angle. You can have your arms down by your sides. You can have your legs straight out in front, or your knees bent, or your feet together. However you feel comfortable, you want to be able to breathe fully and deeply is the most important thing. And if it's all just too much of a faff to think about, you can lie on your left side and do it lying down. But before we do definitely lie down on our left side, we're going to think about some golden thread breaths. So the golden thread breath starts with an inhale through the nose. So let's just inhale, exhale through the nose. And as you inhale, exhale through your nose, see if you can hear the sound of that breath coming in and going out. So exaggerating the sound of that breath, this is the ujjayi breath, this sound of the air in the back of the throat, both on the inhale and on the exhale. So just this breath alone, listening to the sound in your throat, it gives you focus. So you can focus on that sound. It lowers the blood pressure and heart rate, and calms the whole body down. And then we're going to add to this an exhale through gently parted lips. So the purpose of this is to make the exhale as long as it can possibly be. So you're inhaling through the nose, but the exhale comes out through gently parted lips. I always say, you know, when you used to go on holiday as a kid, and you would get like a Coke or a Fanta or something like that, and you'd get those 2 tiny, tiny little straws, and it was impossible to drink anything through one, so you had to have 2 of these tiny little straws. You can sort of imagine that you've got 2 of those tiny little holiday straws that you used to get, and blow the air out, so you're lengthening that exhale. So the smaller the space between the lips, the less space the air has to get out, so the longer it's going to take. If it's too long and you feel like you're drowning, just take a big deep inhale. Make the space a bit bigger. So focusing on the length of that exhale, it's called the golden thread breath, because the visualization that goes with it is that you've got this golden thread spinning out through the lips, further and further and further away. A fine golden thread. So the exhale is the antidote to discomfort and stress and tension. Again, giving you something to focus on, focusing on that exhale that comes through the lips until each breath expands and becomes really long. Each breath in itself becomes sort of almost a minute or longer. And then we're going to come away from the golden thread breath. We're going to come back to our ujjayi breath, so that sounded breath. in the throat, both on the inhale and on the exhale. And then we're going to let go of any effort in the breath at all and just allow your breath to come back to its normal, natural rhythm. So learning a few breathing techniques is really useful in life generally, but particularly in pregnancy when you're kind of training for labour and birth, which is how I kind of consider everything that you do in your pregnancy is like your training. It's like training for a marathon, basically. You're kind of getting ready, you're getting some tools in your toolbox ready to use as and when you might need them. And a few breathing techniques are going to be absolutely key. So the element of just focusing, as I said, being able to focus on your breath, giving you that absolute pure focus, but also giving you that sense of control is so fundamental, because sometimes things go a little bit out of control and you can't necessarily control what's going on outside of your body or even inside of your body. But what you can control is you can control your breath. And normally the first thing that happens when you become stressed is your breath becomes short and tight and high up in your chest. And if you can take that breath deep down into your belly, into your baby, then you have this sense of control that can never leave you. So we are going to definitely lie down now. So unless you are less than 30 weeks, let's say 28 weeks and under, you can lie on your back if you're comfortable to lie on your back. But 28 weeks and over, you'll be wanting to lie on your left side. A lot of people choose to lie on their left side earlier than that anyway. So as you lie on your left side, if you've got your left leg straight out along the floor, it's really good if you can find something, again, a cushion or two off the sofa or a pillow off of the bed to support your right leg, so that you've got a little bit of lift supporting that right leg, that knee isn't going all the way down and you're stressing that right hip and part of the lower back. You'll also want something underneath your head. So again, a rolled blanket, a rolled towel or something like that. And you might want a blanket or a pair of socks or a jumper or anything else that you might have to make sure that you're warm enough and that you're comfortable. So once you're there and you're warm and you're comfortable and you're settled, lying down on the floor or on the sofa if you want, on a bed, wherever you want to be. We're focusing now on your breath, but just this time, just the normal natural breath. So you don't need to change or control your breath in any way. At this stage, we're just looking at the normal natural breath as it comes in and as it goes out. Whether it's coming in and out through the nose or not, it doesn't really matter. But focusing on that breath coming in and then the next breath going out, noticing that the breath, the temperature changes from the in-breath to the out-breath. So the inhale is always going to be a little bit cooler, and the exhale is always going to feel slightly warmer. And you can notice that change of temperature on the insides of the nostrils, maybe on the lips, maybe just the upper lip. Noticing also the places where one breath turns into the next breath, where the inhale becomes an exhale, and where the exhale turns back into an inhale. So observing every part of this breath like a cycle. So you have an inhale, and then you have a momentary pause. It might just be a fragment of a second at the top of the inhale, and then the exhale takes you back down. At the bottom of the exhale, there's just a fragment of a second where nothing really happens before the next inhale comes in again. So the breath becomes like a cycle, like everything else in life. Watching this circle, this cycle of the breath. And then taking that awareness now to a point in the center of the forehead, as if there's a little shining light right in the center of the forehead. And from the center of the forehead, that shining light moving down to the base of the throat, that little dip between the collarbones. And from there into the left shoulder. And moving down the left arm to the elbow and the wrist, the back of the hand and the palm of the hand. And the very tip of the thumb and the index finger, the middle finger, the ring finger and the little finger of the left hand. And then coming back up through the wrist, the elbow, and the left shoulder to the base of the throat, that little dip between the collarbones, and from there into the right shoulder, and all the way down the right arm to the elbow and the wrist, the back of the right hand and the palm of the hand, and the very tip of the thumb and the index finger, the middle finger, the ring finger and the little finger of the right hand. And then coming back up through the wrist, the elbow and the shoulder to the base of the throat, that little dip between the collarbones, and from there down to the center of the chest. From the center of the chest over into the left side of the chest and the left breast. And over to the right side of the chest and the right breast. And then back to the center of the chest, and from the center of the chest, taking that awareness down to the belly button, the navel, and from the belly button down to the center of the pelvic floor, and over into the left hip, down that left leg all the way to the knee, and the ankle, the top of the foot, and the sole of the foot, the big toe, second toe, third toe, fourth toe, and the little toe of the left foot. And coming back up with the ankle, the knee, and the hip to the center of the pelvic floor, and into the right hip, and all the way down that right leg to the knee and the ankle, the top of the foot and the sole of the foot, the big toe, second toe, third toe, fourth toe, and the little toe of the right foot. Then coming back up through the ankle, the knee, and the hip to the center of the pelvic floor. And then taking that awareness inside the body, up through the birth canal, and finding your womb and your baby nestled snugly within. Taking some time to visualize your baby in a perfect optimal fetal position, so with their head down in the pelvis, spine along the left side of your body, knees tucked in and the feet somewhere up towards the diaphragm and the rib cage. And taking your awareness from your baby in your womb back up to the center of your chest, back up to your heart space, your energetic heart space, the home or the seat of the true self, centered in the chest. And just settling there, knowing that you have everything you need to build and to birth this baby well. You have everything you need to build and to birth this baby well. So you can start to notice your breath again, noticing maybe that breath might have become quite light and quite shallow, or it might become a little bit deep, a little bit sleepy. And starting to regulate that breath again. So recognizing the breath and starting to regulate the breath. So making it a little bit longer, taking it down towards your baby. Controlling that exhale. So the exhale comes out nice and long and slow with control. And gradually, slowly, you can start to make some small movements, maybe just with your fingers, your toes, your tongue around the inside of the mouth, making some small movements to begin with. Maybe having a bit of a stretch here or there, or rolling a little bit from side to side. And eventually you might feel that you're ready to come through your side, through your left side, and up into a seated position again. But again, another of the benefits of doing yoga virtually is that you can fall asleep and you can stay there for as long as you like. Or you can just crawl to your bed once everybody else has left and nobody will know. So thank you so much for joining me this evening. Hari Om Tat Sat.